The Selfish Giant. Every afternoon after school, the children loved to go and play in the giant's garden. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass, dotted with beautiful flowers that looked like stars. There were 12 peach trees that bloomed with delicate pink and pearl blossoms in the spring and bore rich, delicious fruit in the autumn. Birds perched on the trees and sang sweetly, making the children pause their games just to listen. How happy we are here," they would say to each other. One day, the giant returned. He had been away visiting his friend, the Cornish ogre, for 7 years. After all that time, he had run out of things to say and decided to come back to his own castle. When he arrived, he saw the children playing in his garden. "What are you doing here?" He roared in a very gruff voice. The children were so frightened that they ran away. "My own garden is my own garden," the giant grumbled. "Anyone can understand that, and I will allow nobody to play in it but myself." So, he built a high wall all around the garden and put up a notice board that read, "Trespassers will be prosecuted." The giant was very selfish. The poor children now had nowhere to play. They tried to play on the road, but it was dusty and full of hard stones, and they didn't like it. They used to wander around the high wall after their lessons, talking about the beautiful garden inside. How happy we were there," they said to each other. Then spring came, and little blossoms and birds appeared all over the country. But in the garden of the selfish giant, it was still winter. The birds did not care to sing there since there were no children, and the trees forgot to blossom. Once, a beautiful flower poked its head out from the grass, but when it saw the notice board, it felt so sorry for the children that it slipped back into the ground and went to sleep. "I cannot understand why spring is so late in coming," the selfish giant said as he sat by the window, looking out at his cold, white garden. "I hope there will be a change in the weather." But spring never came, nor did summer. Autumn gave golden fruit to every garden, but to the giant's garden, she gave none. "He is too selfish," she said. So it was always winter there, and the north wind, hail, frost, and snow danced about through the trees. One morning, the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. It was so sweet that he thought it must be the king's musicians passing by. Actually, it was just a little linnet singing outside his window, but it had been so long since he heard a bird sing in his garden that it sounded like the most beautiful music in the world. Then the north wind stopped dancing over his head, and the hail ceased its pounding, and the frost and the snow covered their tracks and drifted away. The giant jumped out of bed and looked out the window. What did he see? He saw the most wonderful sight. Through a little hole in the wall, the children had crept in, and they were sitting in the branches of the trees. In every tree, there was a little child. The trees were so glad to have the children back that they had covered themselves with blossoms and were waving their arms gently above the children's heads. The birds were flying about and twittering with delight, and flowers were laughing up from the green grass. "It is your garden now, little children," said the giant, and he took a great axe and knocked down the wall. And when the people were going to market at 12 o'clock, they found the giant playing with the children in the most beautiful garden they had ever seen. All day long they played, and in the evening, they came to the giant to bid him good night. "You have made my garden a place of joy," said the giant. "I will never be selfish again." The giant loved to play with the children every afternoon, but his heart went out to a little boy who was so small he could not climb up into the trees. The giant lifted him gently into a tree, and the tree blossomed at once. The giant's heart was very tender. Let's learn some vocabulary from the story. Selfish, meaning lacking consideration for other people. Example, the giant is selfish. Bloom, meaning a flower especially planted for its beauty. Example, flowers are in full bloom. Pech, meaning to be in a high position. Example, the birds perch on the trees. Frighten, meaning feeling fear. Example, the children were so frightened that they ran away. Grumble, meaning complain about something in an angry manner. Example, the giant grumbled when he saw the children. Prosecute, meaning taking legal action against somebody. Example, the giant prosecuted the man.